Welcome csc200 to a review of web servers and database servers. And I'm going to go over that since we've been working in Goorm and we've been running this code to start our web server and restart our Apache server and things like that. And maybe it's a little confusing, and it is a confusing area. I just wanted to review a couple things before we go further in Goorm so you understand that at least when you're starting up these servers and you know what's happening. A couple things to point out. I don't have anything running right now. I didn't do my MySQL start. I didn't do my Apache restart. If you wanted to view one of these pages, and I'm actually just going to view the generic one right now. If you went to project running URL and port right now and you open that up, you're going to get a connection refused, and one of the things it's going to say is your server is not running. Now you might say, oh well, it's not going into the Goorm folder, whatever that is. Now mine is called Goorm PHP 21. I think I had to change it to 21. You might say, oh well, it's not going in there, so let me just type in Goorm PHP 21 and see what happens. It still doesn't work. Same thing happens. The web server's not running, so it's not able to see any of your pages in here, whether they're HTML or whether they're PHP, either way. Now, another thing I just want to point out, and I'll cancel this out, and I'll keep that page open so I can refresh that. I downloaded this page to my desktop, and here it is on my desktop. It's called index.php, and I'm going to open it in my browser. So I'm going to say open with Google Chrome. And you can see Google Chrome does not understand PHP. It understands it's a text file, so it's showing me all the tags and everything, but it doesn't know that it's a PHP file, so I'm not seeing the way it normally looks. So that doesn't work like that. So let me just close that. If I go back to my desktop as well, if I change the file name of this and I give it an extension of HTML, same file, and I'll use HTML, and then I open it in Google Chrome, it's going to open the file. Because your browser locally can open HTML files, it can read CSS, it can read JavaScript. Now, it can't read PHP. If you noticed, it didn't show that contents here. If I go into the code right here and I go to view source, there's that area that says PHP. It does not read that. It's only saying hello Goorm. It's only giving me the title of hello Goorm, and it's only giving me a headline, an H1 of hello Goorm. It's not reading the contents here. So your local browser cannot do that. It needs a web server to read PHP files, to interpret PHP files. So that's one thing I just want to point out. So you can work with HTML files, CSS, JavaScript on a local browser, and you don't have to be on a server to do that. Now getting back to here, how do we get this to work? Because we're still getting a server is not running. I know that when we go back here, we do the service MySQL start, then we do the Apache restart. But if we just wanted to read the page, we could do Apache restart. We could do this first. So we could highlight this and start our server. And that's what we need to read our pages. So when we put that in there, our server is reading our pages. And it's saying done. And then if I go back here and I refresh it, it should be able to see it. And notice our server is also interpreting PHP, because when we created our container, we made it a PHP stack. So it also has the PHP interpreter within it to be able to interpret PHP code. So it's doing that without anything else. So just our Apache server is able to do that. So it's not just reading HTTP files. It can also read PHP. So it's able to read that contents here, which is actually PHP code. Now, if we went back here, and we said, oh, well, let's open up EX8. Now here I have EX8, and that's the one that connects to a database. And remember, to get to that, I have to go after here because it's in a folder inside here. So I have to put EX8, and it'll default to index.php inside EX8. But if I do that, I'm going to get that connection failed, connection refused. And I'm getting that because we don't have our MySQL server running. So that's not running to interpret the database. We can see our pages, we can open our pages, but it can't connect with the database because that particular file, the one inside our EX8, is actually connecting with a database. So then if we did this, then if I copied this and I pasted this and I started up our MySQL database server, see it says starting database server, and if it says done and not failed, once that's started up, if I go back here and I refresh this, it'll show me the last query that I had in that PHP page. And now it's connecting to our world database and it's showing whatever results I had asked it to show. So I just wanted to point that out. That's why we're doing that, and I'll close this up But that's why we're starting that up. Our Apache 2 is our web server, and it also has a PHP interpreter. And MySQL is our database server that's allowing us to connect to the server and read our information from our database. Now also, I just want to point out that phpMyAdmin, which we also installed, is just a tool so that we can communicate with our database. It's just really a tool that we're using instead of, communicating through our terminal. We could go in here and type MySQL and start MySQL and start writing queries in here. And I'd have to first make sure that I'm connecting to the right database and things like that in here, because unlike Python Anywhere, it's not just going to go right to the world database. I'm going to have to select database and do all that. I don't want to do all that now, but the fact is we can connect to our database just using terminal in here, but we're using phpMyAdmin as a tool to do that, so we don't have to go through all this. So it's so we have a GUI, we have something visual to look at. So I just wanted to point that out, that phpMyAdmin is just a tool to help us manage our database, but we could still manage our database in here if we wanted to. Now I'm going to quit out of here because I'm not going to stay in my MySQL console right here. And now I'm just going to close my terminal. And when you close your container, I guess that's what you're doing, you're actually closing the container, you just go up here and you go to close container. And that's all I wanted to go over right now. I also have a couple articles and a video for you to watch on web servers, application servers, and even database servers, and even just a couple articles so you can understand that just a little bit better. It is a confusing area, especially some of them combine things together, some of them don't, as far as application servers and database servers. So I'll give you some information to read on that as well, just to give you a little more background on that.